Hi everybody, this is the baseball head, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the people's champion. Your host, and welcome back to the baseball head, and hopefully you like this video and hit that subscribe button. So I got a couple of updates for you. One about Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And of course one about Pete Alonso. And also Roki Sasaki. It didn't seem like the Mets are going to be getting Sasaki. According to little Andy Martino on Tuesday, or in the Mets Hot Stove Show on SNY, he does not seem very optimistic. He says the Mets don't seem optimistic that they're going to sign him, which is kind of in line with Dave Stearns had said that they weren't too enamored with the... they didn't think they were going to get him. That's what I'm trying to say. But we'll keep an eye on it. You never know. You never know. Obviously, Tanner Scott is out there. The Mets met with him, I guess last, or maybe this week or whatever. That's a pretty big deal. He's really the best reliever on the market. The Mets are going to get a big reliever, I think, before we get to spring training. Now, there's a thing about Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Word is that he wants to play for the Red Sox. Now, I don't see the Red Sox and the Blue Jays making any kind of trade. But it kind of tells you that he doesn't want to, he doesn't want to stay in Toronto. Now, for the Mets to make a move, they have to give up a ton. Again, like I've been saying, people keep writing to me, telling me he's a generational player, but people don't want to give up the players on the Mets that are not elite prospects, like Luis Angel Acuna. They don't want to give him up. He's not a generational player. That's Acuna. So, I mean, a lot of people contradicting themselves writing to me, which is fine. They're contradicting themselves when it comes to Vladimir Guerrero Jr. They want the player, but they don't want to give anybody in the farm system that isn't like a generational player or isn't an elite player. This is all because they saw, Acuna at 39 at bats in September. It's a very strange dynamic there. I don't know, but he's a good player. And I never said anything bad about him. Just said he's a good player, and I'll leave it at that. But here's from SNY, and this is about Pete. It's Pete Alonso. Headline: Pete Alonso free agency buzz. Slugger reportedly looking for at least a 6-year deal. Now, this is a little bit of a major update, because in the previous video I did on Pete, I had said that he was looking for 9 years. And that was the word. It was something similar to Prince Fielder, what he got. Now, Prince Fielder had this 9-year deal, but he didn't finish the deal because he got a neck injury when he was with Texas, and that was pretty much, he was kaput. He was kaput, folks. And he didn't finish out his career the way he probably would have liked, and he was on trajectory to be a Hall of Fame player. And I'm surprised he has not gotten more traction by the Hall of Fame voters. Just looking based on his numbers, consistently good. 35 home runs, 110 RBIs. 6 of his first 7 years. I'm surprised he didn't get more traction. But the article goes, Alonso reportedly turned down a 7-year extension with the Mets during the 2023 season. Now, this year is an interesting update, and we'll get into it. With Alonso continuing to explore free agency, it's becoming more clear what the Slugger is looking for. The New York Post's John Heyman, who is very close with Scott Boras, reports Wednesday that the gulf between the Mets and Alonso is the years. It's not the money, it's the time, the length of the contract. Quote, the issue with the Mets is the length of the deal, Heyman said. Right now, we're looking at Alonso wanting at least a 6-year deal. SNY's little Andy Martino reported Tuesday that both sides remain far apart, and that's truly a coin flip, whether Alonso is with the Mets on opening day. ESPN's Jeff Passan said earlier this week that Alonso will likely get a shorter deal with lots of opt-outs this offseason. However, these negotiations go down. Passan and Heyman do believe a reunion with the Mets is still the likeliest outcome. Now, little Andy was less optimistic on this than Passan and Heyman. But do we really care what little Andy thinks? No, of course not. Of course not. He is not a guy, he's an insider, but he's not that much of an insider. He's not Jeff Passan, and he's not John Heyman. That's for sure. He's a lot, you're talking about a guy with a thin skin. very dense skin and extremely paranoid, to be honest with you. But what we have here is a situation where I'm sort of, my belief is that I think he'll sign with the Mets, re-sign, they'll work it out. But as time continues, I'm starting to feel less optimistic. You know what I'm saying? Before I was very optimistic, but I'm starting to see that I can see him not being here. And if he did that, it's a big mistake. Now, David Wright said something interesting that, and they announced today officially with him in a news conference talking about this whole thing about Pete and what's going to happen with him. You know, whether he's going to re-sign with the club. And I thought what David said was very interesting. As you know, David is one of the great Mets of all time, and he was a great leader. He might have been, I mean, aside from Keith Burnett, he's probably the greatest leader the Mets ever had. Let me read you what David had to say to SNY, and during the press conference, really, this sort of Zoom press conference. Quote, "It's a different feeling when you're drafted, developed, and playing for the team that gave you your first opportunity," Wright said. "There's a little more, maybe a lot more pride when you put that jersey on every night. And I hope he remembers that and doesn't lose sight of that. With that being said, I've never ever faulted a player for maximizing his earning potential and going to try to make a great living for him and his family. I can't fault him for that. But at the same time, I remember what hit home big time for me was we were in Atlanta towards the end of Chipper Jones's tenure, and seeing his emotion and his words, and spent his entire career in Atlanta. Certainly hit home for me, and obviously playing across town from Derek Jeter, seeing how much that meant to him. I certainly learned a lot from them, learned a lot from afar, just kind of following them, what they would say, how they would act, and how much it meant to them to put the same uniform on their entire career. I think that should certainly be a consideration. Hopefully it's a consideration to Pete when he's looking for his next team or coming back to New York. Now, of course, the article says is if Alonso and the Mets reunite, he'd be set up well to break the Mets' all-time home run record this coming season. We know that. If we didn't have the COVID year, he would have had that record already. Alonso has 226 homers, third in Mets history behind David, 242, and Darryl Strawberry, 252. Excuse me. The Mets will retire his number 5 on July 19th. Wright will also be inducted into the Mets Hall of Fame that day, joining Tom Seaver, the only two Mets ever that then number retired and entered the team's Hall of Fame at the same time. And obviously, the big thing about David is that he spent his whole career with the Mets, and he's going to get his number retired. He'll be the only Met to do that. All the other guys that have had their numbers retired with the Mets spent time on other teams. All, you know. Obviously, Seaver got traded to Cincinnati. Piazza started with the Dodgers. Doc left. Darryl left. You know, they got Willie Mays at the end. Jerry Kuzma got traded to the Twins for, believe it or not, Jesse Orosco. And Keith obviously came from the Cardinals. But that's a sort of secondary. Is that a word? That's a secondary consideration. All this. Pete has to be reasonable here. He has had a great career here. He's had great moments here, and he had a great postseason. And it would be very disappointing for me to see him playing somewhere else when they're not going to care about him. They're just not going to care about him. Wherever he goes, nobody's going to care about him. There is real pride in spending your career with one team, and you're a great player. And Pete's a great Met. He's a great player. And hopefully the Mets will figure it out. He'll figure it out. This is more on his side than really on the Mets side. I think they have an idea of what his value is. I think there is some room for negotiation with the years. But they have to be. He has to be reasonable in this situation. Normally I say, both sides got to work. But from what I can read, it seems like he's more, more stubborn than anybody else. I think they want the years, but this market's just not giving it. Christian Walker got 3 years. He didn't get a major contract. In fact, he took less money than the qualifying offer that he got from the Diamondbacks. And he had a good year last year, and really good years the last 3 years. This is not a great mark for a first baseman, and Pete has to understand that. I think he's learned that it's a pretty harsh lesson in this situation. But we hope the polar bear comes back, and everything will be beautiful. We get ready for our spring training very soon. I do think there is a cutoff date. I would say within the next 10 to 15 days. If it doesn't get resolved by then, I don't expect him to be back. Right now, I expect him still to be back. But right now, but if they don't resolve this in the next 2 weeks, I don't see him being back. I really don't. I think he'll dig in even deeper. But does he want to be a guy that's remembered for being with the Mets and not being great after the Mets? He spends his whole time with the Mets. He'll break the home run record, the RBI record. He's going to break all these big records that the Mets have. That home run record is a big record. And that has stood a long time. That record has stood for a very long time now. 35 years. So you want to have that record if you Pete. And to be able to say you have more home runs than Darryl Strawberry. Now, before I go, I want to sort of mention again, we have memberships here. Please go and check them out. One of the things I want to do with the memberships is improve the quality of the videos. And that is the biggest thing I need you to do. I'm looking to get about 30 to 40 people in here to help me buy a new computer so we have better sound, better picture, and really expand the channel in a big way. And I need your help. So that's why it's important that you do that. And if we get one more member right now, folks, we'll be able to show you everybody that's a member on the channel. So, and of course, you'll have my thankful, you'll get all the thanks in the world from me. Believe it or not, I am very humble. But, I do appreciate it. I always appreciate the time you take to watch the videos. But to make the channel better, I need a little help from you. And it's a very easy to do. I'll put the link, again, I'll put the link in the description. I'll put the link in the pinned comment of a video. Go in there, it'll open up, and you'll see how to join. Very, very simple. Well, thank you for watching. Have a good day. Keep you updated on everything that's going on with the Mets, and I'll see you later.